It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, September 11th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have 2G Talks with Eddie Kweon, the Sunday Message Word Study, and of course, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, it is Monday again, and how have you been and how was your weekend? Yes, if you haven't yet, go ahead and leave a like and comment to build our community. I'm really happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up, support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, like before, Learn from Me, and also The One Who Broke the Seals. And this is a great and powerful message. Hope you guys really received a lot of grace from this, all right? So it is another week. We are we're fully into the second week of September, right? Think about this. By Thursday, we'll already be done the second week of September, as crazy as that sounds. But yes, last weekend, I had a great and awesome weekend. It was kind of like, for me, it was almost like a birthday week. Because, you know, you kind of meet people here and there, and then other people are like, oh, I'll buy you a coffee, which was really good. Some people like bought me dinner or lunch or whatever it is. So last week, also the Campus SS guys took me out for my birthday. They even bought me birthday presents, which was quite, I was inspired. I was moved by that too. And of course, the best gifts were the coffee gift cards they gave to me. But I was super thankful that they did not give me Starbucks gift cards, because that is the one place I despise. I can't stand Starbucks. The coffee there is terrible. But besides that, you know, they gave me two gift cards, and I'm just happy. One of them I'm almost all used up already, so I'm using my birthday presents really well. You know, it was I was talking to a friend in Malaysia, a non-member, and she was telling me that people born on September 6th will be rich, and I was like, whoa! And then in my mind, I was like, I hope that doesn't mean spiritually. I was like, I hope that doesn't mean just spiritually, right? So I was like, okay, if that's the case, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket. So I bought a lottery ticket that day, and there was a drawing on September 6th. So I was like, all right. So it was like already September 7th, the day after. I purposely didn't look in the news or whatever it is. And I was like, all right, so let me go and see if if I won any money, right? So they have these machines where you scan it and they tell you whether you won or not. So 2 tickets, right? And the first ticket, I scan it, and it says, sorry, not a winner. So I was like, all right, God, here it is. Second ticket. This was done on my birthday. What am I going to win? Second ticket. I put it through the scanner. It goes beep. And then guess what pops up? Sorry, not a winner. I didn't win anything, right? And you know, it's really weird because, you know, like you always have some hope in your heart that you'll be that 1 in 10 million or whatever it is, right? And I thought to myself, it's like, I at that moment was like, you know what? I should buy another ticket. But I was like, it's just a waste of money. So I didn't even buy it. I only do that because it was my birthday and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's probably not gonna, you know, I don't see anyone in Providence really becoming that rich anyways, kind of thing. So I bought the tickets. It was fun just having that moment. You know, the times you think about the lottery, you're like, oh, what would I do with the money? What would I do with the money and stuff like that too. So yeah, but I won nothing. So yeah, that's what it was. I won nothing. On the description below, I actually found some mistakes on the description below, right? So, well, some things like some people were asking me that, you know, they're wondering if they can give me like if they wanted to give me a birthday gift through my PayPal. And if you check in the description, my PayPal is there, right? But the bigger mistake was the online clothing store. The link that I put in the description below is actually the wrong link. That one's for the link towards the link for YouTube. YouTube to my store, which doesn't show everything. So I changed the link to see all the products, right? Like, do it until the end. If you forget, you will die. Like all those different proverbs that Sunseam gives. So I put the new link in there. So if you take a look at that link, you'll get to the place where it's like, oh, this is the actual store itself, right? So the store the link that I put there doesn't really give you many options, but the new link I gave you is the actual store itself. And from that store, you're going to see tons of products on there and stuff like that too. So you can check that one out. It's a lot better than the other link that I had. And I'm sure this is why a lot of people are like, oh, there's not much on this site, but there's tons of stuff on that site. Like the hoodies and shirts, and tank tops, cups, there's just a bunch of stuff on there too. And I was thinking about doing stickers too, but I wasn't sure about that yet. But I'm thinking about doing hats. I think I want some trucker hats. But yeah, so that has been changed. So if you check out the online store in the description, just copy and paste that into the web address and you'll see it. Okay. So the new poll that comes out today, new poll that's coming out for you guys to check out this week is, how do you plan to contribute to internet ministry? Internet ministry is the hot item right now that a lot of people, that Sunseam is thinking about, that there's an internet ministry department, stuff like that too. So that is the place. There's a couple of options you can vote for this. So this is in the poll. You can vote in this poll. Number one is making content, like making a new Instagram channel, making a TikTok channel, making a YouTube channel, something along that line. The second option is watching and sharing other people's content. The third option is supporting financially. The fourth one is prayer. And then, of course, the fifth one is other. Comment if you have something else, another way that you're actually support internet ministry. So that's, because that's the hot topic, I put that poll up for you guys to go into. All right. So, did you guys watch the Friday night prayer meeting? Yeah. They introduced my YouTube channel, right? And I actually got a call up from the internet ministry department about 2 weeks ago, and they asked me to make a highlight reel kind of thing of showing what's on the channel. So that's kind of cool. So you can, I found it to be very entertaining, and it was kind of cool because my subscribers jumped up like almost 200. It's almost jumped 200 people, 200 subs on that channel there. And I haven't worked on it for a while because I've been really, really focused on MSD because of, that spiritual Oppenheimer that happened in March, right? So now I feel the inspiration to start doing it more. And I almost feel like before, the reason why I didn't really start like any more of the material is because I felt like I need to wait until I remade my studio. But then I was like, man, if I keep waiting for my studio, I'm just going to wait forever because I don't know when I'm going to make it. So I'm just going to start making content again with the tools and things that I have right now. So I'm going to work on that. So, there's a lot of thoughts on internet ministry going on. Even this week's Friday prayer meeting is going to be about internet ministry too. And the thing that's so interesting is when I was listening to that Friday meeting, the pastor was talking about Sunseam's given direction for this since 2017. So even for myself, I thought that I was early because I started in 2020. But if I think about it, I'm still 3 years late. When Sunseam gave the direction in 2017, I was still 3 years late. And when you look at what Providence has done since 2017 on internet ministry, we really don't have much to show. But I am super glad that people are getting inspired and they're doing it now. So if I were to tell you guys, like right now, if you were to start a YouTube channel, because that's the one I know the best. If you were to start a YouTube channel, I think a couple things that you do need to think about, especially when it comes to YouTube. If you're going to start a YouTube, you just got to start it, right? Find out what area you want to be in, what niche, right? But just say you're going to do spiritual, non-spiritual, funny, this or that. If anything, just start it, right? Because you're going to start to see where you should be the more you do it. You're like, oh, I don't like this, but I like this. I like this. Like, if you look at Mr. Beast, Mr. Beast has like over 100 million followers. But the interesting part is, if you look at his first videos, they're terrible. They're terrible. They don't have any direction. It's not about the things that he does now, but as he's doing it, he's getting better and better. And they say that the most important part is your first 30 videos, right? Got to get 30 videos up on that channel. So I hope it's something that we will also be able to, if those of you guys thinking about starting something, you're going to have some general topic, but start it and see where it leads you and kind of keep shifting and pivoting to where things fit you the best, right? So for me, I'm going to be moving into like a video podcast, kind of like a Joe Rogan, but spiritual. Like there's a lot of these podcasts coming out too spiritually too. And I'm going to start a new podcast for my Espresso channel. And it's going to be a video podcast. So people are going to see me. I'm going to talk about certain things, Q&As and stuff like that too. Talk about the end times, prophecies, all these different things. So if you go to Espresso with Sky, there's a poll, and on that poll is asking what should be my first topic that I talk about for my what's the first topic I should talk about for my podcast kind of thing, right? So that is something I am going to start really, really soon, and I'm more and more inspired because there's more people out there, right, that are watching too. And for those of you guys don't know, very, very big blessing that happened to me is I got a ticket to Korea. So I got it. Super thankful that God inspired me and nudged me through people to get this ticket. I wasn't really even thinking about buying a ticket because it's just so expensive. But God worked through someone to help me out, and I will be flying out at the end of October. So I am super, super excited. And I'll, while I'm there, I'll be meeting the internet ministry team. But yeah, it's quite exciting. And don't worry, guys, I made sure that I'm flying out on a Friday, which is my days off, so that I won't miss a podcast while I'm on that plane. So that's something that I do take into absolute consideration, making sure I get those things done. So I'm super excited about this. I've been inspired in so many different ways, because people have been calling, like I've been talking to people who are in Korea, and they're telling me how amazing the protests are. I've talked to people who tell me how inspired they are from seeing Warmingdong right now. Like there's so many things out there when you look, it's like, wow, it's really, really inspiring and exciting. So that is something that I am really stoked about, and people are gaining fire. Some person is saying that they went to Korea, they experienced so many things, and then they received a new heart from God to do better, right? So even that, I was like, man, that's something that I want also, and I'm hoping that we can get a good discussions done in the internet ministry department. Hopefully that will be done a lot better too. There's this great comment that came out, and it really, really inspired me. It really super inspired me. All right, so here's a comment that came out on YouTube. Some of you guys have seen it already, and it says, "Hey, Pastor Sky, earlier this year, I asked you to testify for the 7-hour prayer that you did, and I really wanted to do it, but I wasn't confident, so I asked you to testify about it. I received so much fire from your testimony. The reason why I wanted to pray like this was because for a whole year I couldn't pray, and I was so sorry to God, and I wanted to make it up to him before 316 by praying 7 hours for 21 days, which is incredible." He continues, I don't know if it's a he or she, but it says, "After your testimony, I received so much fire and prayed for the 21 days for 7 hours. Actually, I wasn't sure why I wanted to do it, but I thought it would be good for my rapture. I definitely believe it was the Holy Spirit's inspiration, because a couple days before March 12th, right, before that spiritual Oppenheimer hit with the leaders meeting from AJ, a couple days before that, I finally hit deep prayer. It took so much struggling and immense effort. It was such a deep prayer that led me to a very tearful and true confession and promise to the Trinity that I would never leave them no matter what. A couple days later, that was March 12th. But that prayer helped me so much not to shake or waver during this difficult time. I want to sincerely thank God and the Holy Spirit for inspiring me to pray, and for Pastor Sky for testifying, even though I remember you were really tired," right? So think about this, guys. This is like, for me, this is something that just shows the power of prayer, the power of testimony, right? So think about this. Me doing the 40 days of 7 hours a day, the only reason I started it was because I heard someone else's testimony that blew my mind away. And because it blew my mind away, I was like, whoa, that's so crazy. I can't believe that kind of thing, right? And because I was inspired, I was able to do 40 days of 7 hours a day. But, it almost felt like it went full circle, because now that when I testified about it, it inspired someone else to do it. And you kind of see that there's like this circle of life kind of thing, where this testimony goes out, it inspires people to try it, then they do it. And when they actually do it, they start to testify of what they did, and then it inspires the next group, right? The next generation. And I hope that we will realize and understand the power of testimony even more. There is so much out there that God has done for each and every one of us that the power of testimony, it is there. Right? It is there. And we have to realize more and more each and every week, we got to testify for what God has done. Right? If I were to give you a crazy story, and some of you might have heard this one already. When I went to Italy in the year 2000 with Sunsteam for these soccer tournaments to evangelize people. And what happened was we were playing it against England. And at that time, some guy was really cheap, and the guy undercut me, and I flipped over and landed on my shoulder. I heard a crack in my shoulder, and it was the worst pain. And then Sunsteam came from across the field, and then he healed me, right? And I was like, what? And then, even though I put a sling on and I bandaged my arm to my body, I still played, even with the pain. And then I went back to Los Angeles, and we were playing soccer together with just the church people. And the exact same thing happened. Of course, this was not on purpose, but someone undercut me and I fell on my shoulder again. And when I fell on my shoulder, the pain was even worse than it was a month ago when it actually broke, right? And they took me to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, they took an x-ray. And the doctor said to me, he's like, hey, there's no break. But then he shows me the x-ray and says, look at this. And he showed me that on my collarbone, he shows me like a thick area of my collarbone. And he says, look, you broke your collarbone before, but it healed perfectly. And after that, first I was like, wait, I never broke my collarbone. But then I realized, wait, a month ago, it was broken. And the inspiration that I got at that time was, why did God make me get injured in the exact same spot as before, the month before at that tournament? And God spoke to my heart and says, I do not do this just for you, but it's for everyone. So testify. So that next week, when there was a big national leaders call in America, I testified that God healed my collarbone. Right? So, this reminds me of it because we need to testify. If we don't testify, people will not get inspired, right? Is it just for you to be inspired and only you do the 7 hours of prayer? That's what God is kind of telling me. Is like, is it only for you? Only you're the only one who's supposed to be going through that? Just you? And you're like, no, I give it to you so when you testify, other people will be inspired and they will do the same thing too. Right? So that's, when I heard this comment, it really inspired me a lot more. Like, yeah, that's so true. God wants us to testify. He wants us to give glory and praise his name for all the amazing things, not just for our sake, but so that after it happens to us, we testify and other people are moved and inspired and they receive grace too. So yeah, I hope that we can all testify. If you guys have any testimonies, you want to record it on audio, just record it, send it to me. Would love to play it on the Morning Star Drive and let 18 different countries listen to your testimony too. All right. Today's the 11th, but yesterday was September 10th, which is a Saturday. But September 10th is September 11th is significant because we know about the 9/11, right? However, what's tied to 9/11, what we know in this history was the day before is when the tide stopped in Malaysia. Sunsteam went to Malaysia, and on March 10th, they were playing volleyball, and then the tide stopped, right? The tide stopped in Port Dickson. You guys all know the song Prayers Work, right? And it talks about the tide stopping in Port Dickson. And it's basically, it's testifying. The song is testifying to this miracle that happened when Sunsteam visited and the tide stopped while they were playing volleyball, I believe. Or was it volleyball? Or was he teaching the word? It was one of the two. And apparently, over there in Malaysia, there was, I think Pastor Bumsuk went over to visit, just kind of stopping by. And he shared some points with them, I heard, right? And, I don't know the full thing, so I can't share everything. I just don't, I didn't hear the whole thing. But there's a couple of really, really big points in there that I took from it, right? So, the first one I think is a very important one for all of us is centering on the man of mission and Jesus instead of centering on the one who testifies for him. And we can see that that was a big mistake that was made in the past, right? And our duty as brides of this history is to relay what we have witnessed to people. And but this one kind of hit me. This next point kind of hit me very hard. Is like, be diligent because you don't know when you're going to die, right? That's not the part that hit me. I'm not telling you that I'm getting old or something like that. But the next point was, be content with what you have. Don't expect that you're going to be rich. But before anything else, you first got to be content with what you have right now. And that's something I think is a very important point. Because if you're not content now, then even when you get rich, you're not going to be content. You need to be able to be content with whatever you have right now at this moment so that whatever happens in the future, you're fine. There's nothing that you're yearning for that much more. But if you're super content in your heart already, then even when you come into more money, even when these things happen, you're going to be content already. We can't have that expectation that having money or becoming rich will be the thing that makes us content. And especially as people in this history, we have to be those that realize we of all people should be most content. We should be most content because we're in this history. Right? We should be most content because of salvation. We must be most content at this time. So one part he shared was like, something feeling frustrated when he sees Providence members who have a car but choose to walk instead, right? And then he tied that to, in the same way, we have the words of life, but we choose not to take action diligently, right? And basically that was Sunsim sharing his feelings with Pastor Bumsuck also. So the last point I thought that was really powerful was, if you're waiting for the sentence and if he's guilty, you're going to leave. We can't help but just let them go, right? If you know who the man of mission is, you will stay until the end. If you know, right? If you absolutely know the man of mission, you'll stay until the end. It's the people that sit there saying, well, if he's guilty, I'm not staying kind of thing, right? There's nothing we can do at that point, right? There's nothing we can do. So that's something that we have to think about here is, it's first a matter of, do you know he's the man of mission or not? That's the number one thing. Do you know clearly? Because if you know clearly, there are a lot of things that come with the man of mission. The things that are the things that are assumed. The things that would say, oh, that's true. Like, this is something that cannot be broken kind of thing, right? And once you understand that point, then you will be able to stay until the end no matter what happens, right? Because if you're in the same position of, oh, well, if he's guilty by the courts, then I'm going to leave. Think about this. Then you should have left in 2008. And if you think even more deeply, then you shouldn't even believe in Christianity because Jesus was convicted too. You know what I mean? So if that's going to be your number one thing, you're probably going to just leave anyways, right? You need to know clearly the man of mission, and then you will stay until the end. So that there's a couple of really powerful points in there that I really like. When I only saw like a couple of points, but after I looked at it, I was like, wow, these are really, really powerful points that I thought were very, very powerful points. Either way. Last thing I want to talk about before we get to the first break. I was thinking about this, about peace, right? The question that was in my head is, when will we finally have peace? Peace in this history. And I thought to myself as God, when are we going to finally have that peace and quiet where we're going to be like, yeah, let's move forward and, we're not going to have all this junk going on around us. And the answer was, peace comes when you preach the gospel, not when you do nothing, right? And I was like, what does that mean? And I thought about it a little bit more deeply, and it was like, it's not about the situation and circumstances, not about the tribulation, it's not about the difficulty, it's not about the suffering, it's not about all that noise around us, or it's not about when there's no noise or no bad things happening around us. That's not what peace is. We may think to ourselves that peace happens when everything is finished. Like, we're like, oh, thank God it's finally done. Like, we may think that is when peace comes. But think about this. Will you have peace when Sunseem is set free, or when Sunseem is finally out, or whatever it is, free of persecution and free of slander, but you did nothing in the meantime. You did nothing. You didn't do anything for that peace to actually come. Would you still be at peace? Right? So even if Sunseem is set free, even if Sunseem is innocent, even if we're free of persecution and slander, even if all these things are set and done, would you have peace in your heart if you did nothing that contributed towards it? Would you be at peace if you just stood by and watched everything go by? Would you be at peace if you just waited to see what the verdict was? Would you have peace if you did absolutely nothing? Or would you have more peace that even if you suffered, you defended Sunseem, you testified for him, you helped him to bring peace to Providence? What would give you more peace in your heart? And at that point, I'm like, wow, peace is not about everything calming down. Peace is not about we no longer have any slander. Peace is not about, all these things around us become like it's quiet. Peace is something that happens in our hearts when you do your responsibility, when you do everything that you can, right? When you did what you're supposed to do, and then peace comes. You did everything that you could. This is when peace comes. And, it really inspired me. It's like, oh God, that's, that's obviously the best way to think about when peace comes. Peace will come when we do everything that we can. Peace does not, how many people will have peace just because there's no difficulties happening, right? That's like saying rich people should have peace because they have everything that they need and want. But is that true? It's not. Just because you have everything you need, everything you want, doesn't mean there's peace. Just because there's no fighting and no wars, does that mean the country has no fighting and wars amongst families, amongst people, amongst yourself? Peace comes when you do everything in your power to make it happen. And there will be more guilt and there'll be more resentment of yourself if everything settles, everything passes, like all the things pass by, everything, Sunseem is finally vindicated. But we stood around, just waited. But everyone else put their lives on the line to make sure it happened this way, right? And I think that's something that we have to think about for ourselves is peace will come. Don't worry about the things around us. Don't worry. Like, I was thinking about the story of Abraham. And the story of Abraham is very interesting because he was promised by God, right? Promised by God that he would be the father of all nations, right? From him, descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky, the sand on the seashore. So here's God's promise. But how easy was it? Where his wife was, upset and angry because she couldn't give him a child, but he was promised by God. So all these things are happening, and it's like, what the heck is going on? Like, there was still not peace on the outside. They were still fighting between Sarah and Hagar. They were still fighting where he would sit there like, oh my gosh, I have to sacrifice my own son. And I was reading something on Abraham. They said most likely his wife died at the time when he was sacrificing his son, right? So it's kind of like, it's so crazy, all the turmoil, all the suffering and difficulties he went through, even though he received God's promise. All the suffering and difficulties Joseph received, even though receiving God's promise. David too, Jesus too. If you look at all these people, even though the promise was there, they still received the suffering, the difficulty, and the tribulation, right? So having the tribulation is not the thing that defines whether we have peace or not. Do you have the peace inside that you're doing what you're supposed to do? And because you did it, this is why things are the way they are right now. And I think that is something that we all have to think about right now is we're not going to get the peace when things quiet down. It's what we do right now that brings about the peace is what's going to give us peace in our heart that we did something. All right? So, that's just something I was inspired thinking about over the weekend. But I hope it's something that inspires you guys too. So let's get into our first break of the day.
always come through. No, I'm not slipping through. No, I'm not falling down. The only thing that's falling is my knees on the floor. I'm praying, Lord, will you give me strength? Lord, will you give me power? I can't do this myself, so bless me in the morning hours. All the demons test me, but they will never shake me. If I pray, they hate me. If I pray, you love me. Connected with you is the only thing that matters. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. While I'm praying on my knees, I trust you with all my heart. For you always come through. For myself, for my family, for myself alone I pray. Please don't let me down, Lord. I know I can trust you with all my heart. So I'm on my knees praying for you to always come through. Even if I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees praying for you to always come through. I pray to never just settle for good when great is available. Who's the mastermind behind this mind? I give all the credit to God, that's why I'm back. They mad that I made it, I know that the Satans, they hate it. I keep working hard just to make progress. Now I'm on 10, trust the process, ayy. Look at my efforts lately, I'm setting conditions daily. I'm praying on my knees, so bless me. Please bless me, please bless me. Tribulations always come and go, I will never stop, just always know. Your focus determines reality, stay solid, that's why I'm praying on my knees. I trust you with all my heart. For you to always come through. For myself, for my family, on myself alone I pray. Please don't let me down, Lord. I know I can trust you with all my heart. So I'm on my knees praying for you to always come through. Even if I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees praying for you to always come through. SB.
All right, so let's get into today's word study. And every Monday we have the Sunday message word study and a lot to go over. This week's Sunday message, learn from me, the one who broke the seal. Powerful, powerful message. And for me, this is one of the things that I love about these messages lately. It's like Sunseem's teaching us and reteaching us about the core parts of the word so that we're prepared to go out. And when that time comes, we can teach people properly about the words that we're receiving. All right. So this week's scripture comes from Revelation chapter 5, verses 1 through 5, which is a famous verse that I'm not sure if you guys know this one or use it a lot, but this is the one I use a lot when it comes to times, and half the times where John sees a scroll that's got writing on both sides, and then no one can break the seals of the scroll, and he cried and cried, and then there was an elder that said, there is someone, and it is Jesus, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David has triumphed, he is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals, right? And, one of the things that makes it very, very powerful when it comes to that, when it comes to this scripture, because only Jesus can break the seals, right? Which means that when Jesus comes back again in spirit, we know the person that comes back because they are the ones that break the seals, right? So if Jesus is the only one that can break the seals, but he comes only in spirit, then the only person that's able to break the seals, or that Jesus is with that person, is the person that is only going to be the person that's able to break the seals, because the only one that could do it is Jesus, which means the person who does it is the one Jesus is with, right? So it's another one of the, it's a powerful lesson, basically telling us straight up. It's like, do you really know the time that's going on right now? It's strengthening the conviction once again of, do you know what time it is? Do they know it's Lord's second coming again? Do do do. You guys know that song? What's that from? It's from it's a famous song from the 80s, or raising money for Africa. Do they know it's Christmas time? Sorry, I totally went on a tangent, but it's like, this is a thing that, do we really know what's going on? Do we know the time period? Do we really know who the man and mission of this time is right now? And that is something that we have to take into consideration. Like, hey, we have to realize deeply what this means. And this is why we're going over these lessons once again, right? Who is the one that can break the seals? Only the one that God sends, right? So in the Old Testament time, the person that God sends is Jesus. He is the body where the Lord's Spirit, in Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 and 2, it says that the Spirit of the Lord will rest upon this person. Who is this person? It is the stump, the branch that comes from the stump of Jesse. That's in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1, right? Jesse is the father of David, right? And it says that's the family tree of David. But from that family tree, there is a branch, which is obviously Jesus. And the Spirit of the Lord will rest upon this person. Which means this is that famous prophecy. There's another one on this too. But David was promised from God that the Messiah would come from his lineage. Which is, where is David's hometown? It's in Bethlehem. How do we know? Well, the prophet Samuel met Jesse in Bethlehem. And they were sacrificing together, and then he chose David in Bethlehem because that's his hometown. So we're expecting someone from Bethlehem, right? That's also in Micah chapter 5, verse 2, which came out in this week's message. Also, is that you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you're the least among all the clans, you'll be the greatest because the Messiah will come from you. So this is something that's absolute. It's there. That from Bethlehem, the man of mission, the person that God has sent, the Messiah, the person with the Lord, the Spirit of the Lord resting upon him is going to come, right? So that's the person of the time period of the Old Testament, right? New Testament time, our expectation is going to be about Jesus, that Jesus comes back again, right? And the only person that can break the seal is Jesus. So how do I know that this person, this body is Jesus' Lord's second coming? It is if they can break the seals or not. Right? And that's why we're living in this time right now. The man of mission breaks the seal. In every time period, it's always the man of mission. Just like the time of Moses, Moses broke the seal and brought the 10 commandments. The time of Jesus, Jesus broke the seals of the prophecies of the Old Testament, fulfilled them in the New Testament time. And of course, in the new time period, it's the man of mission, the body that Jesus uses, right? So we're seeing that these seals are secrets that God hides from everyone, and the only time that we will ever know the secrets of the seals is when the man of mission comes. And this is why we're in this history. If you think about it very carefully, the thing that's so interesting when you really, really think about it is, we didn't come because Sunsi was a nice guy. Like, did we come because he's nice? Absolutely not. It's nothing about being a nice guy. It's nothing about being, Sunsi was so nice, so that's why we're going to give our lives for this history. No, it's got nothing to do with that. It starts off with the word. There's something different about the word that gives the secrets of the Bible. And that's why after hearing it, we're like, where did it come from? And then you see the way he lives according to that word, and that's what compels us even more. We learned about the fire, the judgment of fire, the Lord coming on the clouds, the spiritual resurrection, and physical resurrection, right? So remember, guys, there's actually 3 different types of resurrection. Physical resurrection, like the literal physical resurrection, was Jesus raised 3 people from the dead. It was Lazarus, who was a good friend of his. There was the widow's son, and the Roman centurion's daughter, Jairus' daughter, right? And, we have like these 3 people that were physically resurrected, but the problem was they died again. So that's the physical resurrection that was so few and seldom because it doesn't have a huge impact. But the second resurrection, the most important one, is spiritual resurrection. And spiritual resurrection has 2 parts, right? What are the 2 parts? Well, physical resurrection is listening to the words with your body, believing them, putting into action. So you've resurrected your actions. You've resurrected your thoughts, right? And spiritual resurrection also has a spiritual side, is your spirit comes out of the domain of death to the domain of life. From the Old Testament to the New Testament to the complete Testament. Your relationship comes out of servants to children, out of children to brides. And that is the spiritual resurrection that happens there, right? So we see that this resurrection becomes such a key part. It's such a key part of learning the resurrection properly, because As long as you believe that Jesus will come back physically, you will never be able to receive the Lord's second coming. Because as long as you think it's physical, you're always going to be looking outside, waiting for some person to be riding on a cloud, right? As long as you're waiting for this physical body, you will never know that the Lord's second coming is already here. Just like the time of the Old Testament. They thought that God would literally come back himself. But as long as they believed that, they could not see that the Messiah was standing right in front of their face. They could never accept the Messiah. And that's why resurrection is such a huge lesson. You cannot meet the Messiah without understanding the spiritual resurrection, right? You can't. It's impossible, right? And then, of course, we have, Jesus coming on the clouds, riding on the clouds. And we know it's not a literal cloud, but it's human clouds. Right? Clouds of those that realized and followed, taking action together with them, which is much more powerful. So the way Sunseam does it now is how? Well, very easily, what is happening right now? Sunseam is running together with the people that believe, and they're making a great history. Because Sunseam cannot do it by himself, he needs a body. He needs bodies in America, bodies in Canada, bodies in Australia, bodies in Hong Kong, bodies in Mongolia. He needs bodies all over Europe. He needs bodies in South America, in Korea, Japan. He needs bodies everywhere, but he can't do it himself as just one body. This is why the clouds, swift clouds, will move all over the earth, because that is his body. It's the people that believe and follow, right? And I would say that one of the most perfect ways to understand the Lord's second coming is through Elijah. When you realize that in Malachi chapter 4, verse 5 and 6, it says that Elijah will come first, we realize he came first, but it was not physically. So there was already a second coming before Jesus. It was Elijah's second coming. So Elijah's second coming came 2,000 years before Jesus' second coming. And it shows us how God works. He works in that way. So how did that happen? Well, he worked in spirit, with the spirit and power of Elijah working on John the Baptist. And that's in Luke chapter 1, verse 17. That's how it was fulfilled. Understanding that someone who died in the body must come back in spirit. They cannot come back in body, right? But all these seals that I'm talking about so easily, this is a crazy part. I'm talking so easily about these concepts. These are such powerful concepts, and it's so easy for me to just talk about. I give you all the scriptures, I give you the reasoning, the logic behind it, because the man of mission already went through hell to bring us these words. Seals are broken, right? It's crazy when you think about it. Like, I sound like a genius, not because I am, it's because a genius taught me. That's it. I'm just memorizing. I'm just understanding and understanding those words and saying, oh, yeah, I know these words. Oh, I know exactly what this means. Why? Because I was taught it. That's it. I have probably 0.01% of the struggle to receive these words that Sunseam put in. It's done. It's finished. It's fulfilled, right? The seals of the New Testament are being broken. They're already broken right now. And this is why all of us, why do we come to this history? Because we recognize that the Spirit of Jesus has returned. The Spirit of Jesus is already here. We learned about the fire, the sword, the judgment of the sword and the word, the resurrection of the spirits of the people of this time period. And we're learning that one of the deepest concepts is, what is the purpose of living? What was God's original purpose? God's purpose of creation is what? For human beings to become the counterparts of love to the Holy Trinity. To love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. To have that type of love where we are the brides of this history. That's the rapture, when it actually was fulfilled. The final resurrection is rapture. And, Daniel chapter 12, verse 7 through 10, I love this verse too in half times, where God is like, Daniel's like, Daniel hears about time, God, Daniel tells God, asks God, when are these things going to happen? When are we going to be set free? And God's like, oh, after a time times half a times. And Daniel's like, I have no idea what you just said. Can you teach me? And he's like, no. Go your way. Your job is just to receive him. Someone else will come to break him, and that person is going to be the Messiah. So you've done your job. So go along, Daniel. Go your way. It's not for you to know these things. Daniel received it, and the Messiah is the one who breaks that seal. So one thing that might be a little bit confusing is sometimes he was talking about all these things, and then all of a sudden he says, overcome all temptations, overcome the opposite sex, do not betray God, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and the man on mission. And we're like, what? What does that have to do with the other? And the answer is, if you don't know these concepts, these principles clearly, you're going to be shaken in faith. And if you're shaken in faith, you will not be able to overcome temptations. You will not overcome the opposite sex. Everything you've done until this point will be in vain. You have to overcome. Right? We have to. Like, the time has come. The time is already here right now. And we have to be those that we're the ones that proclaim that the people don't understand the words deep enough. Right? Sussy was talking about getting drunk, right? Sussy was talking about like all these sins that are misinterpreted in the New Testament time, where everyone says, oh, it's okay to drink, but the answer is no, it's not okay to drink. It's a sin. But can you imagine how many people would stumble from that? There would be a ton of people that would stumble from that. Don't you think? How many Christians do you know still drink? And the answer is a ton still drink. They do. They do, right? They still drink. And what that has to be something that we have to understand is, one of the points that Sansi made is, people will not go against what they want to do. So if they want to drink, they're not going to say it's wrong. That's just, and I think that's so true. It's like, yeah, you're not going to go against what you think is, like, what you're doing, and you're not going to say, oh, I'm wrong. That's one thing people don't like to do, is confess that they're wrong. Like, and it was the same thing as the point that he made is like, yeah, when people want to commit the fall, so they're not going to say that committing the fall is wrong. They're not going to say it. It's just too uncomfortable because they're the ones doing it. They don't want to stop it. They keep on doing it. They don't want to stop drinking. They don't want to stop falling. They don't want to stop, meeting the opposite sex or the same sex and do those things. They don't want to stop. They don't want to stop. And we have to think about that also. What are the things, the smaller things that we do in this history that we shouldn't do, but we do it, we won't say anything about it, or we'll twist the words with our own thoughts just so that what we do sounds right. People don't go against what they do. They're not going to say that what they're doing is sin because they can't stop it. And this is why, like, that powerful point is people who interpret the word according to their own will, they're the ones that are going to struggle to death. They'll struggle to death. So, that question Sansi gave is, how different is what you learned here compared to the former faith? And the answer is, it's so different. It is. The general public of Providence, we're convicted. And we want to follow these rules. And you're going to have a small group of people that don't want to follow, that don't want to do the things that that Providence states, right? And they're not convicted by it. They don't know it properly yet, right? And that's the same thing for us too, is how much do we know? The owner of the time period is here. The time of brides is here. The 1,000-year wedding banquet has already started. We can't we can't let people not know this history, not knowing the principles of, like, just when you think about that one concept of resurrection, not knowing that will stop you from meeting the Lord's second coming because you're expecting it physically. That's how big that one lesson is. It's that huge. Resurrection is so big that you will not recognize the one that God has sent. You're going to still look up in the sky. Just like the time of the Old Testament, where they were thinking literally that God would come back, they will never accept Jesus. As long as you don't understand that one constant resurrection, you will never, ever accept the Lord's second coming. That's why it's that big. I say one of the biggest things that I like, that's a very personal one that I think it's personal. Well, obviously it's personal for every person, is the point of you need to resolve your own life's problems. And we're like, whoa, what does that mean? And then he says, break the seals of your own problems. And I'm like, whoa, that's so deep. That is so deep that we have these seals, these problems that are constantly happening in our life, whether it's our character, whether it's the way that we believe, whether it's the way that we act, the things that we think we cannot change. Those are the seals of your life. And it made me think about think about this. I'm over 20 years in Providence after head leading. That's when I realized, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, this is how bad this was. I shouldn't say these things. Oh my gosh, what about this? I was told, like, that's something that I looked at as like, oh my goodness, that's just terrible. It's terrible. Like, and I break the seal by looking back at the past, praying about the things that I went through, the things that I did. And I start to break the seals of certain things I shouldn't be doing. I realize deeply about it. I'm saddened by it. I'm like, oh, why did I do that? But the only way to break it is through prayer. Break the seals of your own life's problems through prayer. And you will succeed when you break those seals and you start living properly according to God's will. As long as we don't break those seals of our own life's problems, we're going to live in ignorance because we didn't know. We got to pray through it. Got to pray, break that barrier. So you're like, that's what I did. That's what I could do different. You got to break through the barriers of living a life in vanity. We have to break the seals. Right? Just like if we can break the seals of our own life, and that can you imagine how powerful that is to break the seals in your life? But you magnify that to the one who breaks the seals for the entire time period. That's huge. Like, how could you get anything bigger than that? That's why this week's word is powerful, right? It's powerful words, right? There's another point here that talks about people who are trying to find fault in the word. They look for the weaknesses and then they post their findings online. One thing I will tell you about the word is this. Sunsteam did say at the very beginning that once you realize the word, it's so deep, but once you start going deeper into the word, there's even more questions. There's more questions, even from the lessons you already learned. If you start getting deeper and deeper into it, you'll find more questions, but they eventually get answered with time. But if your whole point is just snooping around, looking for bad things like, aha! It's kind of like having a discussion with someone where the whole point is all they're doing is trying to look for something bad in what you're saying, which means they're not even listening to you. They're not even listening to the point that you're trying to make. They're just trying to find something to catch you with. They're trying to trap you in your words. And the key point here is not that don't read them. And I say it's probably better not to read them if you know yourself well. But if you're going to read it and lose heart and then drag other people down with you, there's no point in reading it if you're going to go through it like that. If you're going to lose heart, which basically means in my mind, for myself, this is for myself. If I think I'm mature enough. I have enough knowledge. I have enough realizations. I am absolutely convicted by this history that if I lost heart from reading something, that's because I don't fully understand something. It's not so much, oh, this is wrong. It's more of, wait, what did I not understand? There's something there that I haven't seen yet. This is why I can't answer this question. I wait on it. I look for it. It's like, yeah, I got to search for it. If we read all those things and lose heart, there's no point of reading it. Right? It just means you got to strengthen yourself first. Because eventually you're going to start tempting others and drag them to death, drag them away too. So we have to realize these words that much more deeply. You know that there's a study that says that if enough people say that something true is wrong, then everyone starts to agree with it. There's been these studies, the behavior psychology or sociology studies, where there's something that is absolute truth, but because there's a study is you have all these people in on it, and you have one person that's not in on it, and they all say something like 2 + 2 = 5. Then what happens is eventually that guy says 5. He just follows the crowd. That even something that is true, you're going to go against it because of everyone else. But if you hold to your principles, if you're absolute, you don't care what everyone else says. Truth is truth. Truth is truth. The one thing that was really powerful for me is there's this one point during the message where something was like, I realized about the resurrection that it's spiritual and that now Jesus has come back in spirit. So he realized that, right? Can you imagine being the first person to realize that? How hard that is? Where everyone else is believing the exact opposite, but you're going to be like, no, I believe. Like, that is a hard thing. I think that's something that is so difficult to realize, but the rest of the world is saying no. Imagine realizing that and then having 100% conviction and belief in what you just realized. I think that is impossibly hard. It's hard. I couldn't imagine being the first person to realize, because that means no one else has known it yet. I really like those videos too. When they showed the videos of the revival speakers in Korea in the 70s, like that was crazy. 1.5 million people gathering. That was the peak of Christianity in Korea. They're all waiting for Jesus to return, but the sad part is they're looking in the sky. They don't know the resurrection properly, so they're waiting for the physical Jesus to come back. When they look at the rapture, they're looking at this physical going into the clouds outside of the air. When the Bible, this is from the rapture lesson, is clear that the earth is in the air. The air is part of the earth. The air is the earth. And that's why even when Jesus came, Jesus didn't make a history in the sky. Jesus made the history on the earth, because the earth is the air. Like, these are really powerful points that comes from the 30 lessons. We just forgot a lot of these things because we stopped listening to it. We got to keep listening. So, it was such a great message to hear. And I think one last part that I will bring up is from the Proverbs. That last one is, why are we going through tribulations and suffering? Right? And then people fall into despair because it's so hard, it's so difficult, so much suffering. But we have to realize, kind of like what Pastor Bumsuk said in the very beginning, I was telling you guys, is like, we got to be content first. We really do. We must be content first. And after we are content, then even when those other things happen, we're not looking for something to make us more content. If you are suffering now in the tribulation and suffering, you're falling into despair, you're going to go through the same thing even when there's no tribulation and suffering. The seals have been broken. So what should we do? Even in tribulation and suffering, let's give thanks. Even in tribulation and sufferings, we got to prosper. We got to break the seals of reality right now, the seals of life. And this is what's going to make us content with life. This is what's going to make us not fall into despair. I've had so many great friendships from the former faith, and it didn't matter what they were going through. They were so content with life because they have salvation. It didn't matter what they were going through. They just praised God. Right? God gave me life. He could take it away. But this all belongs to God. And that's something I do think that we have to realize too. All right? There it is, guys. That is the word study for the Sunday message. Powerful Sunday message. Hope you guys really enjoyed that too. All right? So let's move into the second break of the day.
Just as a warm spring breeze thaws out the frozen ground, you came to me like springtime, and then you embraced my heart. Your words became a song, like a poem in my heart. They came just like a letter, and they opened up my heart. That heart of true sincerity, and all the stories shared between you and I are like gifts from up above, just the way we are now. Let's converse together, let's protect each other as we comfort one another. and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just as a river shines and sparkles in the sun, you came to me like sunlight, and you brightened up my heart. Although the setting sun so briefly paints the sky, the beauty and inspiration I'm feeling lingers in my heart. That heart of true sincerity, and all the stories shared between you and I are like gifts from up above, just the way we are now. Let's converse together, let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just the way we are now. Let's converse together. Let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just the way we are now. Let's converse together. Let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. And we'll sing of all the same dreams.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment of the day. And every Monday we have 2G Talks with Eddie Kweon over there in San Francisco. He is a national leader for SS. He's a second gen himself, and he's preparing for law school at the moment. So big prayers go out to him for that. Today in 2G Talks, he's going to talk about his 20th year living in America. And of course, we heard already that recently his father just got his citizenship. But on top of that, he's going to talk about some experience he had meeting his friends from first grade and the help that he received from them. And this is about harmony. It's about his family, 20th year. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please welcome all the way from San Francisco. This is Eddie Kweon with 2G Talks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week's episode of 2G Talks. There's, I think, a lot of very exciting things for many of our listeners on the MSD 117.8. You may already know too, but recently it was Pastor Sky's birthday. So, even officially on this channel, I want to take the time to say happy birthday to Pastor Sky. Really, thank you for all that you do for this history. And I really hope that, even as you grow older, that you'll still be able to do the Lord's work in many different capacities as you are doing now. Yeah, it's funny because like in the various chat rooms we have with different guys, people are wishing him happy birthday as well, and like people are joking around with him. People are saying happy 60th birthday, past this guy, and I think I don't know if all of them know that he's not actually 60, because I think some of them sound like they actually believe that he's 60. But all jokes aside, once again, very happy birthday. And related to that, I think this week is in many ways a week to be very thankful for. And a week that many things should be celebrated and commemorated. I think the Lord really helped me the latter half of this week to really commemorate and to think of things more than I would if if the Lord didn't let things happen that way. And so as I've shared before on the channel, this last Friday was our family's 20th anniversary of moving to the United States. And there were a lot of things going on, and I think over the years we've tried to be better as a family about kind of like remembering stuff like that, and trying our best, even if in some small way, to celebrate. I think when we were younger, because times were difficult, and I think because we weren't like that sentimental, like enough to go out of our way to like do something or plan something. But at least in some small way, over like the last few years, we've tried to celebrate more things together, right? Even if it's not really extravagant or anything crazy, at least doing the work of commemorating whatever it is that we're celebrating. But this time around, I think it was a little bit hard to do that too, because I was taking the LSAT on that day, and then my brother's across the country, and he was like busy that day too. But even with that being said, one of the things that I got to do on that day was like a couple weeks ago, some of the friends that I actually made when I first moved to the United States, like as a first grader, right, in elementary school, they hit me up like a couple weeks ago asking to meet up on that day in particular. And so, even when I was like thinking about it like yesterday when I was seeing them, I was really like, wow, like even in this way, I think God is helping me to remember and to commemorate things. Like really, like these were some of the very first friends I made after I moved from Korea, right? And at that stage, I didn't really speak English that well. None of our family did, and we were like really just getting settled in. And I was starting first grade, right? So I'm really starting like school fresh, even though like there's like kindergarten and preschool and stuff like that, even in Korea. That's not really school, right? And so everything was very daunting, and these were some of the very first people who were very kind and warm to me, even though I didn't speak any of the language and stuff like that. And like even my parents were surprised. You're like, and they asked like, you're still connected with people you met in first grade, because our family has moved a lot, right? And so I was like, I was quite surprised too, because I reconnected with some of them in high school. Even though we didn't go to the same high school, through Facebook and such. And there's actually something that I really felt while interacting with them too, and I think it ties and it connects to the messages that have been coming out recently as well. And I think it's something that I think and I'll be very honest here, and this isn't meant to target anyone or anything like that. I think this is a responsibility that especially our Korean members need to have in overseas. Everyone needs to have this for sure, but I've seen it be a problem like amongst Korean members at church, right? Including myself, and I would go as far to say as with my family too. And so it's something that I really, really want to avoid for the future of Providence history, especially for American Providence, but everywhere too. And it's that. So when I was hanging out with these guys, like I think the last time I saw them was like 5 years ago. Man, but they're like super friendly guys, and I know like the kind of character they are, and yet there's still people who lived out in the world, right? So I could like immediately see changes from them. The first thing they ask to do is like, hey, like, you guys want to drink and stuff like that. And one of them was talking about how he had gotten like super into beers lately with his family and with his like with his girlfriend side of the family. So all of this kind of conversation, I think I'm used to it. So I was like, I wasn't like phased by it or anything. And and one of my other friends who was there, like, he got this like huge tattoo like from his chest, like all the way down his arm, and this like whole leg tattoo too. And this, I was like, okay. It was weird because it taught me a lesson. Because when I was talking to them, because they're people who I've seen like in such a long time, and who I don't get to see that often, like, it was easy to be considerate of them. It was very easy to, and like, and it's funny because recently I was like, I've been listening to the Brothers Karamazov novel. It's a very very famous Russian novel, right? It's super long, and in part of that too, they were talking about this because I think one of the biggest tenets of our shared history with like the Judeo-Christian and now this complete Testament faith is this. You really have to love your neighbors, right? And what they were saying, like, it's actually in the novel it's talking about, it's actually really hard to love your neighbors. Like, it's easy to love them when they're at a distance, but when you see them and when you run with someone and when you see their face, it becomes hard to love them, right. There's naturally conflict and aversion to one another and differences of how people operate. But yeah, like in the same case, like, so when I saw these like friends from a long time ago, compared to like the friends that I see regularly, it was so much easier to be considerate of them and just be like, yeah, of course, like, it's fine, that's how things are. Versus like if it were like with someone closer, then it would be much easier even mentally to kind of accept them and to welcome them in that sense. But then the feeling that I got was, like, wow, like, I really should treat each of the people close to me to this degree, and even actually better, right? And I think that's a common realization that we do feel, right? Like, we should actually be treating the people closer to us even better. But yet I think everyone has a tendency to kind of treat the people next to them worse, right, than like with strangers. But I think it's something that the Lord has been talking about recently, like really telling us to be in harmony with our brothers. And this is something that I mentioned before, but I really, really like the story letters and the proverbs that have been coming out, and how, like, even the Trinity said, like, even if you're working together for my will, and even if there's just two of you, if you argue, then they will not work with you, right? And so, like, that's kind of like in some ways like it sounds like a crippling thing, to be honest, right? Because then like we're trying to do so many things, like, and we want to make this great history, but the conflicts that have like existed for a long time are still there in many cases, right? And so I really really do believe that we do have to make this work of making harmony amongst our brothers really happen. And so this is something that I think everyone knows. And so I do think that it needs to go step by step, right? We don't have to go so far to the extreme, like, okay, let's make harmony with like everyone, like with people who we've been like just so conflicted with for so long. But like in even in terms of like maybe the people that we're uncomfortable with, among us, our brothers and sisters, even with our physical family members and things like that, we can make harmony in these kind of small steps and consistently just walk that path of being harmonious with one another. Like for me too, like there's some people, and actually I don't have any members like this, but I do have people who have been struggling, you can almost say that they've left, but like they're still kind of connected and I have to take care of them, but it's just so difficult for me to do so. And so for me, when I think of the people who are like the most difficult to harmonize with, it's those people. But then I still do want to make that step, but I do recognize that even among the people that I do see regularly at church too, there are people that I can treat better, that I can do these kind of things with. And I think those things do make a difference. I've seen that it does make a difference because, this wasn't at the church, but even with my friends in the world, recently, I think, especially these last few months, after I came back from Hawaii, I was really doing my best to be very considerate of like the friends who I grew up with like in high school and middle school, and who I see the most frequently here, and I think they're really seeing the difference, right? And it really wasn't easy. Like it wasn't just something that I was doing naturally. It was something that I had to consciously put an effort. But it wasn't as hard as like, reaching out to the people who are like on the fringes and who I'm trying to take care of in that sense. So it wasn't that difficult, but it still required conscious effort. And so when I see the fruit of that effort, I really see I'm just so thankful that God is teaching and raising us in this way, and I know Providence history will change as a result too. Like even with those most difficult people, I know we don't have to jump straight forward, and like some people will, and like I think if it works out in that way, that's a very tremendous thing too. But even with those people who is like the most difficult to be in harmony with too, I think is like one of the proverbs that, and one of the parts of the story letters that have been coming out recently, where the Lord and the Holy Spirit were telling us that if you continue to show care and interest in this person, then that's how you can like evangelize them. That's how you can have their hearts open up, right? And it was, I think, in last week's message about like really how you think that people don't help you because they don't have the means, right? Or they can't help you? No, it's that their hearts are closed, right? So like if you really want someone to help you, then you have to open up their hearts. And so I saw that sometimes that really means just being there for people, even if it's like frustrating. And I know like quite a few people like within Providence and outside too, where like it's all about getting things done, right? So just being there for someone and just sitting there for someone is a very difficult concept for some people, but I think it's something that we really have to recognize, because there's a strength and a power from helping someone else first, right? And actually helping someone is something that I think all Providence people do, right? That part's the part that's fine. But even helping someone in a way that doesn't really make sense to you, sometimes I think there's a hiccup there. But I do really see the fruits of these efforts, and I really, really pray and hope that all of these things will be things that we do together, right? Because I saw the power of this too, because recently I've been seeing more guys like online and like meeting with them, and oftentimes it's like during times it's like might be inconvenient for one or two parties, right? And it goes a long time, but all of this work, it really bears tremendous fruit, and like I gain so much, the people who meet gain so much, and I think all of Providence gains as a result of this level and this kind of harmony. And so I hope that each of us can do this work of bridging this gap between us, between brothers and sisters, because ultimately what that's doing is bridging this gap between us and the Trinity, and like our brothers and sisters in the Trinity, the newcomers in the Trinity, and the world in the Trinity. And so I really hope that people can really take away a lot from this. And once again, one more time, a very happy birthday to Pastor Sky, and to this channel, and to this upcoming year, this 21st year in America for our family too. So I'll catch you guys on another week's episode of 2G Talks.
And thank you so much, Eddie, for another wonderful episode of 2G Talks. I love the beginning part where some people think I'm actually 60 years old. 60? Come on, Eddie. Are people really thinking I'm 60 years old? Oh my gosh. But thank you for your birthday wishes, and thank you for an awesome, awesome episode once again of 2G Talks. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. Leave a comment below for Eddie. He's doing such an amazing, awesome job. He's almost at 2 years now. All right. So there it is. That is today's Monday episode. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed it. Have a wonderful and awesome Monday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive.